Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Chalk Talk here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Steelers YouTube channel. Chris Halicke here. We're going to take a look at Russell Wilson. Down the stretch, Steelers obviously lost 5 in a row, 4 in the regular season, 1 in the playoffs, getting stomped by the Ravens in the wild card. One of the things that I wanted to look at was why Russ's play deteriorated. Or at least what happened with that. And, the thing that stood out to me about the game immediately, the night of the game, and it came out as soon as the passing chart was released by NFL Next Gen Stats, easy for me to say. Not one pass was attempted in the intermediate range. Between 10 and 20 air yards, nothing. Not one even attempt, much less a completion. That's a problem, and especially because the Ravens, you could hear it on Hard Knocks, the Ravens even knew, like they said with Russ, it's either layups or three-pointers. There's no mid-range game, and this played right into it. And so of course, going through this, I wanted to try to look at, what happened? Why did it get to this point? How did it get to this point? The Ravens here are in what appears to be cover one because, you've got obviously the one deep here. And then the two outside guys, if you're looking at cover three, usually they're going to just drop back and get into this deep third, which, then you're looking at cover three there. But when you watch both corners, they choose a guy and then they run with him. This corner runs back on the go route. So you've definitely got man coverage underneath. This looks like drive on one side and then a screen on the other side. That's what it looks like, because when you got Williams coming over on this drag right there, and then you've got Austin kind of coming over and kind of doing this, like that is drive. Or at least a version of it. Typically, it looks more like it's usually actually a switch release. Usually, it looks more like this, and then you have this. And you would normally read this 1 to 2. That's normally how you'd read it, but it doesn't matter if it's this guy running the drag and then this guy going over like this. You're still reading this 1 to 2 most of the time. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that that's how they're coaching it. And then you have this guy running deep as an alert. That looks good. That's an alert. Just in case something happens with this corner or this safety, where you can run this. If you are looking at if this safety comes over here for whatever reason, if you are in any kind of one-on-one situation where without a safety over the top, you can always throw this go ball, especially knowing that this is, George Pickens. So that's the way you're trying to read this. Now, again, most of the time, this is the 1, this is the 2. And just based off of what it looks like about right here. Okay, let's get to the end of his back. Okay, so he hits his back foot right there. Based off of the way this looks, the way drive is usually coached up. Again, not going to sit here and pretend to know how it's being coached, but the way it's usually coached up. What looks more open? Is it this or is it this? Knowing where they're going to be going. Well, you got two guys there, and you got a one-on-one here. And you've got Calvin Austin, who is going to be sprinting in that direction. Move forward just a little bit. From this angle, it just looks like he gets completely locked in on Van Jefferson. He's just going to throw this, and it ends up being incomplete. And you can see this right here. It's open. This would be an intermediate throw. If he were to hit this, if he were to hit his back foot here, see that Van likely doesn't have the ability to get open here. He's got to move off that. and then get to this. Now, if it's being coached up that Cal's the 1 and Van's the 2, if that's how it's being coached, then you got to wait this out a little bit because, again, that's a one-on-one. And you got Calvin running away from a corner who started off with what we would call outside leverage. I mean, Calvin is running across this way, and this corner is going to have to run with him. Now, Nate Wiggins is a fast guy, but Calvin's pretty fast. I don't think at any point that during this, other than maybe right there, which you're not throwing it to him there, is Calvin really covered. Especially because once he gets past Wiggins, he's open. Ends up being incomplete. All right, let's look at the quarterback's eyes here. Back foot. I mean, you can tell by the stripe on the helmet where he's looking. It does look like he's looking at Calvin here. It looks like he's looking at Cal. He's got pass protection. This is all locked up. This is being blocked. Broderick is not under any kind of duress here at any stage. And he moves off that so quick. I mean, right as Calvin's starting to get open, he's already moving his eyes away. And the one thing, if you're like, well, why doesn't he go back to Calvin if he sees that this is covered? One thing you never do, and I won't put this on Russ or any quarterback, you never go backwards in your progression. You never go 1 to 2 and then back to 1. You never do that. That's a gigantic no-no in the quarterback world. So if he is reading this Calvin as the 1, which I think right here, Russ, this glance, remember George is running this this go right here. That first glance that we see Russ make, let me get back to it. Sorry. This first glance, I think, you get this just to kind of set up this half of the field where they're running the screen over there. That gets set up. This first glance that Russ gets right there, that's checking for Pickens. What's it look like? That's a no. Okay, so we're not doing that. We checked the alert. Now, again, I'm thinking, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know how it's being coached up. I'm going to keep saying that. But this is normally the 1. This is normally the 2. And based off of his eyes, it does look like he's looking at Van. I mean, you almost see a kind of switch. But he's definitely looking in this direction. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But he abandons that pretty quickly. Because he checks George. It does look like he looks at Van first. Then checks out Calvin. And then goes back to Van. And if he does that, again, that's a major no-no. You cannot go back in your progression. That's a major no-no for any quarterback. And he ends up making the wrong read either way. And again, the big knock on Russ is, well, he can't see over his offensive line to see the middle of the field. There's an entire window here. He can see Calvin. This is not a situation in which he's got a whole bunch of guys like all standing up in the way. And no, this is open here. This is a wide open window. He can see. Now, if he can't see over this, then maybe that's a problem. But he abandons that pretty quickly when he doesn't have to. He's got time. He just makes a wrong read. All right. Next play, we got Jaylen Warren coming over. Roquan goes with him. Huge indication of man coverage. You've got 2 high safeties, so you're looking at that. You got to read possibly, okay, it looks like man underneath because, Roquan went with him. So right now, pre-snap, we're thinking possibly cover 2 man. This could also be cover 1 robber, where if this guy goes underneath and robs the middle of the field, well, this guy takes the lone, as the lone defender in cover 1, or this is going to stay a 2 high, and it's just going to be man coverage underneath. Man, 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 and man. Maybe that's what it is. Now, this safety is going to come up, and he's going to, either say something to him, or he's going to try to sell, this is going to be cover 1. Either way. And it does end up being cover 2 man, which you don't see a lot of in the NFL nowadays. Because you got man coverage. I mean, this is just man, man. He's got the running back. This is man, and you got 2 deep. This is cover 2 man. And anytime you have man coverage and you're not going to have a safety over the top for this guy right here, that almost has to become your first read. Especially whenever this is your matchup against Nate Wiggins and George is running this drag. George is fast. He already is going to have the leverage. Now, George also needs to give 100% effort all the time. And I wouldn't try to do this little stutter step thing. What are you trying to fake out here? Just sprint this. Everything else is pretty much covered up. Everything else. Now, your check down is kind of covered. Obviously you have a linebacker here. So you can't really do that. And this is 3rd down, by the way. You can look at the sticks. It's 3rd down. It's 3rd down, man. If your best player, if your best receiver is possibly open, you got to hit him. And Pickens is your most open guy. Now, let's look at what ends up being. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Russ ends up eating this. He gets the whole happy feet thing going. He tries to make something happen like he's 10 years younger than he is, and he ends up getting a 2-yard gain short of the sticks. That's it. All right. Let's take a look. Okay, we want to see what the quarterback's looking at when he hits his back foot, because that's a general indication of where his primary read is. Back foot. He's looking at Pat. Pat's covered up. All right, this looks like he's looking at George, like he's anticipating what George is doing. Why don't you throw that? Now, this isn't an intermediate throw, but this is 3rd down. This is 3rd down. You got to make a throw here. You cannot, and right now, you got a clean pocket. The offensive line gets a gigantic bad rap from the fan base here. Not only because they just want to think, it's a bad offensive line, and I'm not saying that it doesn't have its flaws. It does. But it's a sinking pocket for sure. Frazier's getting pushed back a little bit by 92. But at what point is Russ actually in trouble? There. And that's how long after the snap? This isn't full time, obviously. But he's able to go from 1 read, 2 read, 3 read to check down without making a throw, and then he starts getting into panic mode. This is never a posture you want to see the quarterback in. And again, Pat's not there. Why don't you throw this? Why is this not? If you lead him enough, if you throw this to where he catches it here, maybe, you're at least giving George a chance to catch this and then run. It just doesn't get thrown. He ends up kind of doing this whole foot shuffle, happy feet type thing. Tries to make a play like he's back in Seattle winning Super Bowls, or at least one Super Bowl and going to another one. He's not the same guy he used to be. And it's like he forgets that. This play right here, this is the last one. You got Skoranek moving in motion. Nobody goes with him. Usually an indication of man coverage, especially when you're seeing this look. You've got 3 deep right here. This is usually, Ravens aren't trying to really hide much of anything here. This looks like typical cover 3. You've got, this looks like your standard cover 3. You've got your 4 up front, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're going to be all rushing. Then you're going to have your 4 underneath zone defenders, and then you're going to have your deep, and your deep. That's cover 3. And again, when we actually get to see what the play is, this looks like Russ just goes one read to check down. Now, I'm sure, again, hit the back foot. What's he looking at? Looks like he's looking for this. Based off of where his head's pointing, based off of what's his head, where his head is pointing, it looks like he's looking at this. Right there. Now, he knows he's running this deep post right here. And he sees cover 3. You got a deep defender. You've got a deep middle defender. Middle field closed. Post is going to do nothing, which is fine. But you also know in cover 3, just really quick, let me map this out really quick for you. I'm going to go ahead and create just the cover 3 zones for you. Okay. Do the best I can. Okay. Those are your zones in cover 3. There are weaknesses, and you look for, and I'll use different color, you look for weaknesses in cover 3. Up the seams here. That's a weakness. You could possibly hit that if you have a route that can do that. Or if you have multiple routes that can do that can put defenders in conflict. Another big one is right here. This window right here. Because, and this ends up being vulnerable right there on this play. Because whoever covers this one right here is going to be in conflict. He's going to be coming back and trying to take away the curl flat, but you can't leave this window right here too open, especially if you know that you're a deep defender who ends up being this guy, ends up having to get taken way far back. You're going to leave that window wide open. All right, let's get rid of all that. So let's see. Now, I can tell you right now, this guy ends up being the curl flat defender. And so he takes this look back. He's taken away literally the curl and the flat. If there's a curl here in this area, he can defend that. If there's somebody going out in the flat, which is this guy, he can defend that. That's why it's called the curl flat zone, or he's the curl flat defender. But watch Darnell Washington here. Darnell Washington is running this corner route, which is coming off of this post. So you've got this, and then he's coming out here. This post is going to carry this deep defender to this point. Now, Hamilton is playing this deep, which is fine. But Darnell is running this corner. If you decide to want to throw this to about there, or Darnell can run and go get it, you can make a debate if Hamilton's going to get there. Maybe he does. Maybe if you put enough zip behind it, he doesn't get there. And you got a big target, so you can even throw it high. You got a big, gigantic target in Darnell Washington, where you can kind of put a good amount of zip on that ball and throw it high. And I don't know. Again, not going to sit here and try to debate on how it's coached up. But the one thing that I can say is that Russ hits his back foot there, decides no on the one read, and just checks it down. When he's got dude, you cannot ask for better pass protection. Seriously. You've got 3 yards to work with, and you're not even going to try to let this play out. And the thing is that this route that's going to be coming down there, with Darnell running this corner, it's not like that's in the middle of the field. You're just not seeing it. And he just back foot, no, check it down. You're not even going to... Okay, by the way, context here, it's 21-0 at this point. This is early in the third quarter. It's 21-0. Why not at least see if you can put enough zip on that ball and put it right there? Again, Hamilton would have about... If you were to throw this... Okay, so this is the time where he gets off of his first read. If you decide instead of to check it down, hit this, no, and then there, decide to look for Darnell, who Calvin's running this, which is going to take this deep defender with him for just a little bit and open up this window right there. Hamilton's running back, and you can see that, but again, in the NFL, if you were to throw this with a good amount of zip, is Hamilton actually going to be able to get back there and make a play against a really big defender that's a lot bigger than him? I'd give him a chance. You're down 21-0. Instead, you're going to check it down? I mean, you get 5 yards. Great. Fine. You turned 1st and 10 in the 2nd and 5. You're also down 21-0. And again, this is just another symptom of a much bigger problem, which is there's no throwing to the middle of the field. There's no mid-range game. There's no intermediate game. It's a problem. And that's the reason why when free agency came around, Steelers were like, no thanks. And this came after, like in August, from the most reliable sources that I have told me they are going to try to re-sign Russ. All right. Already preparing for it. And by the time the season came to an end, they were like, no, we're good. That's a problem. And this is part of the reason why. All righty. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this Chalk Talk. We'll be back tomorrow. Catch you guys on the Flippity Flip. We'll see you later.